My name is Shauna Hunter. I am the director of Bort's Library, and I am a member of the 250th Anniversary Planning Committee. And I am pleased to offer this introduction today. Over the many years that I've worked at Hampden-Sydney, I have been fortunate to work with many individuals who have left a lasting impact on the college. Tommy Shomo and Willie Thompson are two such individuals, remaining connected to Hampden-Sydney long after their official retirements, and saying yes when former colleagues get in touch to ask them to do something, say participate in a session for the 250th Symposium. Tommy Shomo, class of 1969, served in numerous roles at the college, too numerous for a short introduction. From 1997 until his retirement in 2016, he served as director of the college's public relations and marketing and communications efforts. Tommy is the author of To Manner, M-A-N-N-E-R, Born, To Manners Bred, a hip pocket guide to etiquette for the Hampden-Sydney man. To Manner Born was first published in 1978, and Tommy continues to periodically update it and revise the guide for our students today. In retirement, he has stayed very involved with the college through organizations like Omicron Delta Kappa, and he is currently serving as co-chair of the 250th Anniversary Committee. Willie Thompson earned his BA from Davidson College and then enrolled at Union Theological Seminary, where he completed master's degrees in divinity and theology, as well as a doctorate in divinity. In 1988, he arrived at Hampden-Sydney College to serve as college chaplain and pastor for College Presbyterian Church, where he served until his retirement in 2002. Willie has authored numerous books on the Presbyterian Church, Prince Edward County, and Hampden-Sydney College history, including Her Walls Before Thee Stand, in which he examines the 235 years of the Presbyterian congregation at Hampden-Sydney. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Tommy Shomo and the Reverend Dr. Willie Thompson.
We're going to spend some time this afternoon delving into history of the college and trying to relate what that history tells us about life today in this community and also in the larger community of the country. But without any further ado, we're going to start with the murder in Cushing, always a hot topic, 1857, and Willie's going to tell us the story.
You probably, most of you know the story. It was not, to call it a murder is not really accurate, but this is the way it appeared, and it was called that in the subsequent trial, I believe. This was, I can't remember, do you number the sections in Cushing from right to left? Or so this was in the entry, and it was on the opposite side then. So it's in the entry at number 4. It was during the winter time, and there was a lot of snow, and the best competition that guys were doing in a big snowstorm was to go on the 4th floor and open the window and see who could pee the furthest out there onto the snow. But they were basically there was a discussion about the family, and this one student referred to a second student about his mother, and the first report was that he called the offended boy a puppy. Well, you can't know why you would want to get a fight going, but a puppy was really a son of a bitch, you know. And it was called, so it was reported publicly that this this big fight arose because one had called mother had called this boy a puppy, but it was of course, the boys, this was, I believe, between the first and second period that it had come out there. And it was, it was in January, so it was not much light in there anyway, but at any rate, this happened right inside the door after between first and second period. And I forget what had really started. I didn't read the story again. I wrote a book about it, but I didn't read it before I came here today. Do you remember what it was actually started over?
I think it was the leftover grievance from the night before.
Oh, yeah. Well, leftover grievance that had been begun with alcohol.
Right.
Yeah. So it should never have been gone to trial as a murder, but that's what it was. And indeed, wasn't this? Didn't the one who did the killing? He was. There's a very full page of the Literary Society that read him out because he had gone with his passion there. There's always going to be tussles and verbal remarks in college-age people, especially college-age boys who are drinking. And the key thing is, are you going to call your adversary a son of a bitch? Because that is, for the offended boy, you have been ugly publicly about his mother, and a boy doesn't want you talking about his mother like that. So that's. There was a trial for murder, and there was this was the trial. He was released from the trial. I mean, he was
found innocent. Yeah.
Found innocent. Well, it wasn't innocent. It was just the trial went on for several days, and indeed. When the verdict came in as innocent, the only church for folks to go to around here was College Presbyterian Church, but it split the congregation, and the half of the congregation went down here to Worsham, and I think there's a white wooden building there falling apart that is still there, just up the road from Worsham on the right-hand side. Anyway, that was though the adversary, the ones who left College Church went there, built their own church with a slave gallery also there. It wasn't brick, but it was. That's basically the story. There was it wasn't worthy of. Having a public trial. It was just what you said. If you were a little bit in your drinking, but so it was. But it did split the church just about in half. More people left to go to the quickly arranged church in the county seat than who stayed. So it was a major breaking up of the church. Once 5 or 10 years later, when the principals were dead or moved away, probably just dead, the church came back together and abandoned the church building there in Worsham. So that's and it was on a matter of honor. If you and it was a matter of dishonoring your mother, and that's a key thing in a lot of fights, you know.
In the early years of the Republic, the question of personal honor and defending one's personal honor was not at all uncommon. And although Alan Taylor in his book indicates that he thinks that more of them had to do with political rivalries than with offended honor. In fact, the most famous of them certainly was in that case. As you know, in 1804, the Vice President of the United States, Aaron Burr, shot the former Secretary of the Treasury in a duel. And at least our current politicians are not doing that to each other, so that's something something said for the current times. But the idea of honor, personal honor in that time, I think could best be compared to the idea of disrespecting in this time. Now, the code of honor at that time reserved honor to gentlemen, to a class, where the idea of disrespecting in our time is based on the assumption that all people are worthy of respect. What do you think, and I'm going to throw this out to the crowd here, particularly the students, what does honor mean at Hampden-Sydney now? What's important? What makes honor at Hampden-Sydney? Just shout it out, no hands. Trustworthy, okay. Excuse me? I'm sorry. Honor, thank you.
Well, I think it's because don't you still have a ceremony of signing in your honor when you come here? And this, we've come from different political backgrounds, different religious backgrounds, and we are only reflecting our parental environment that we were raised in. And now we come here, and this is our first statement different, maybe, from our parents that we were raised with. And it also claims, it's always a little iffy if you claim God on your side, you know. How can you start arguing against that? Because then you're...
We're going to touch upon that a little later. I'll give you a chance to argue that a little later.
Okay. Yeah. No, honor, all right. How many people are in a freshman class here now? 250 or something? How many?
300.
300, okay. Well, you're coming here and you're signing in officially at an honor ceremony means that you are casting yourself in a larger circumstances than the home that you came from. You are putting your present and your future in a collective institution that has the strength of years behind it, and you may be from a home that is a divorced parents that you came from, or you came from a home that one of your parents went to one church and another denomination, another parent went to a different denomination. So you coming here and signing in an honor statement puts you with, I suppose, that probably had a reference to God in the original statement, I don't know. But it puts you in something far larger than simply reflecting the home you were raised in.
You know, at the end of the Declaration of Independence, the signers pledged their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor. And if you go back to the original meaning of the word sacred, as the Greeks and the Romans understood it, to be sacred was to be set apart, to be special.
And here we are on a road named Sacred.
The central part of the temple was the sacred part where the God was revealed. And I think that it's very important. I think it must have been important to the founders, our founders, and the founders of the country, and it should be important to us to make a distinction between a core sense of honor, something that's absolutely fundamental to one's being, that which is sacred, that which is set apart, as opposed to just about any other manifestation of honor as we understand it. Not that those other manifestations aren't important, but the thing about that core sense of honor is that it's always there. It may dim from time to time. It may get lost from time to time, but it's always there. It is indeed sacred to our founders, and I think it should be to us also. Willie, tell us about the Hampden-Sydney boys. I think this is probably a story that resonates with most young men. You know that the United States had not been to war since 1815, except for the very short-lived and faraway Mexican War. I have to look at my dates here, which was, John could probably tell me right off the bat. But anyway, 2 years, 1856, 1858, I believe. But in the lives of these young men, and this was exciting, the idea of going off to war. Of course, they had no idea what war was really like, no experience of it. And they were really excited to do it, and they got themselves all together and they went off. Tell us about the Hampden-Sydney boys.
Well, I wrote a book about that. The Hampden-Sydney boys, there was a time here during orientation that one of the options was the incoming boys could sign up to go with us in a van over past McDowell, Virginia, and over into what is now West Virginia in the area of Elkins, because our boys were the first college boy when things started heating up, like that broke out in the spring of 1861 in Charleston. Boys had been marching back and forth here on campus from 2 days after Lincoln's election in November. But then they were doing that at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and the seminary faculty and the college faculty forbade them to do it after several days. But it wasn't. They were going to have to not do it anyway because it's starting getting dark at 4:30 in the afternoon in November, So, but the faculty did make a statement that they couldn't. But then, of course, later, then they start marching, and they are the first college boy unit on either side, north or south, to be under fire in the American Civil War. They march over. They take, I believe it was 11 days. They could march about 10 miles a day. And I know where each of these places the fellows stopped. And of course, they are all getting sick too, because this is the first time these boys have ever cooked anything. And they've always had a mother or a mammy who's done the cooking. And so they cook and they kill chickens, and they put them over an open fire, and they get them burned, but they haven't cooked the inside. So the fellows eat them and are throwing up in a couple of days with their cooking. So the guys are getting sick, and they have never marched as much as 10 miles a day either. So they get over there and eventually exchange fire with a group from Ohio. One boy had one finger shot off. And we don't know what the student's name was, but he was made fun of. He was made fun of because he didn't find a tree big enough to get behind. So I would take boys over there, and I'd line them up in a picture, and somebody would sit here like this, like that his finger had been shot off. That's about all I know about them.
Well, didn't they make after? I know it was after the battle, after they surrendered, or whether it was on the way.
General McClellan sent him he could have. Nobody knew what you were going to do with prisoners of war then, and the earliest prisoners of war were taken to Chicago, but General McClellan did not. He sent them literally home to their books and their mothers. The big fighting boys got sent to a very home, and I think they did not. I think they did start another semester. Then I forget what time of the month it was. They went out there, and were all captured. You know, they were all captured because the simplest thing that in most of the Civil War battles was that somebody went on a flank march around you and sort of tapped you on the shoulder and said, "Oh, gotcha." And this is what happened. The Hampden-Sydney boys were they were digging trenches and all, and the Union Army just went around on the reverse side and said, "Gotcha," and they were sent home then.
At some point, didn't some of the students here who belonged to a particular fraternity run into fellow fraternity?
Oh,
yes.
These boys, they had about 3 or 4 fraternities here, and there were pictures of some of the boys wearing their fraternity pins on their military uniforms, and they found these boys in Ohio were fraternity brothers, so they were giving them with the grip, you know, and probably sharing a bottle with their fraternity brothers, but that was across the different uniforms.
We spent a few minutes talking about causes. Causes are always controversial, obviously. And I want to say from the beginning that, you know, when a soldier takes the oath and puts on the uniform, he or she fights the battles assigned. During that period of service, they do not have the luxury of determining whether the cause is right or wrong. There's an old saying in the British Army, if you take the king's shilling, you do the king's bidding. But I think that it's worth talking about the kinds of causes that we ourselves take on and why we take those causes on. Religion is a very important part of the early life of the college. Certainly, our leading patriots, they respected religion, obviously, but they obviously were a bit wary of it. As you know, when the college was founded, the founders made a point to say that although the college was founded by Presbyterians, students were free to pursue any form of worship they wished. And you also know that, of course, the First Amendment to the Constitution prohibited the government from any laws of establishment of religion. But how do people of faith choose a cause? When you look at a cause and you are a person of faith, how do you evaluate that? What are the questions you ask? Willie?
Well, in the Presbyterian Church, at that time, you had set questions, and I don't think it was not assumed that you had the right not to go to church here. But the problem was, if you were Baptist or Methodist, you had 5 or 6 miles to go to church, and you can't do that in the morning on Sunday morning. These were. You and the Presbyterian Church, they ask you, at that time, they ask you, do you acknowledge you are a sinner in the sight of God and without hope save in His mercy? And do you accept Jesus Christ as Son of God and Savior of sinners? And do you promise to live a life after the teachings of Jesus Christ? These were the three basic questions that you established. You answered, and you had to answer it in public.
But presented with a cause, what does a person of faith ask about that cause? What are the obligations that a person of faith, all persons perhaps may do this, but particularly focusing on a person of faith, because religion was an important part of the college, and it was important to the students, or at least they were made to think that it was important.
Well, they, for instance, did not ask as a part of your faith statement, will you promise not to drink liquor? Or will you promise not to, will you promise to eat fish on Friday or something that like the Catholics were having to answer, but they did not have to answer. They just had to say, I accept Jesus Christ as my Savior.
But how do we weigh causes in the context of personal faith? The righteousness, I would say, or the rightness of cause. Certainly, when you get to the Civil War, there was many questions at that time, and certainly many questions since about the rightness of the cause that was being fought for.
Well, one of the first things in any controversial thing that people will do if they possibly can is to claim God on their side, as if the enemy had just asked Satan on her side or something. But
what are the dangers of deciding that God is on your side? It's God's cause, not just a cause which perhaps motivated by faith.
Well, that's one of the most pitiful things that I think if you're going to claim God on your side, that shows your weakness, because who can argue against God, you need to stand up for something besides using God's name.
In his book called The Age of Grievance, and this is by Frank Bruni, and Bruni's going to speak tomorrow night here in this room at 7 o'clock, a little commercial there. He talks about how grievance can be a motivator. The American Revolution was motivated by grievances against Great Britain. The Civil Rights Movement was motivated by the grievances of African Americans. I think what Bruni talks about in his book, and we'll have to let him speak to this tomorrow night, is that perhaps now there are too many people with too many grievances about too many things, and that causes us, when we take on a cause, to be arrogant, because grievance often leads to an arrogance and a dismissal of the people on the other side. I think one point he makes rather interestingly is, and he'll make it, I'm sure, himself, is that when you're promoting something, that you need to have humility. Humility is the way a cause gains a wide support. And that, I think that what you saw at the time of the Civil War, and we see today, is very little humility on either side. There was goodness, certainly, and there was belief, but certainly those two particular sides in that war, if they didn't believe God was on their side, they certainly believed that they were unquestionably right. We talked a little bit about the idea that the difficulties of God being on your side, but let's talk a little bit about how, in terms of a cause, do you judge it, and do you judge the people involved in it when that cause and those people are flawed? If you read Alan Taylor's book, The American Revolutions, which I strongly recommend you do read, he makes it clear that the War of Independence was, for all its noble goals, was a flawed enterprise, and that the patriots were not perfect people. And our own founders certainly were part of that enterprise and part of those men. So how do we balance the flaws with the accomplishments? What's most important, and do the flaws diminish the accomplishments? Do the accomplishments overwhelm any concern about the flaws? Really?
On entry day here, when I was chaplain here for 14 years, I did something that I never did any other day of the year. I wore a clergy shirt with a little thing up here, because I had several people who knew me better, of those of you who are already here, thought that was kind of presumptuous of me. But I wanted to make a statement to parents and grandparents and to the I just love that opening day of school when the girlfriend comes and she is a senior in high school, and that relationship's going to last about 1 week, but she is there helping get her boyfriend that's I forget why I was bringing this up, but about what you have to stand for, and the interesting thing about freshmen coming to college is you don't know. The college has some standards, and certainly the honor code is the most important standard, and you're writing yourself on. You can't come into here without putting your name on an honor code. But you're coming, our freshman class, all our classes are coming from innumerable family backgrounds, or faith backgrounds, or no faith backgrounds. And so the college has to set forth that it draws people together for some higher standard, and the honor code is the standard. You might want to find that any sort of way, but you still sign your paper as an honor statement, but it also means that you can go in and out of other people's rooms if you want to, and the people in that room don't mind you coming. You are not going to steal from each other. You might steal a girlfriend. When I came here, I was single, and I was looking for divorced mothers, and I knew it was time. I knew it was time for me to retire when I was looking for the divorced grandmothers.
When I was a freshman in 1965, back in those days, everybody was required to take 2 semesters of Old Testament and 2 semesters of New Testament. And in our Old Testament class, Dr. Walters, Carl Walters,
Mm-hmm.
who was, and I always said, they always talk about Bible courses, but Old Testament with Dr. Walters was, without a doubt, like 3 top courses I ever took at Hampden-Sydney. And but he said to us,
Dr. Walters has had 4 wives now. This time, I will tell you.
We only had 1 at that time, as far as we knew.
He's a friend of mine.
But he said to us, and I think this was right at the height of the civil rights movement. He said, gentlemen, if you're looking for the perfect cause, you're never going to have any cause at all. And I think that's very important to keep in mind when we talk about causes. No cause is perfect. No human is perfect. Let's open it up a bit to strictly the students here. We'd be glad to address any rumors, legends, anything that you've heard or know about Hampden-Sydney that we can talk about or tell you about, or we will not make a definitive statement on the ghost in Fourth Passage. That is beyond our scope here. But anything. What have you heard? What do you know? What do you care about? Oh, in the back there.
No, you all know, this was, the question was about, in my first year here, there was a boy over in Cushing in the Fourth Passage who claimed that he was seeing an image of a young woman in his room every night. And I didn't know why he would he would worry about that, you know. But he said that that a woman kept appearing in his room in Fourth Passage there, and of course the others were making fun of him, and so they called me over there to mediate the sides. Well, there wasn't much to mediate there, and I just wanted them to stop making fun of him, and he was at point of tears all the time because he maybe had been having not really a vision, but had dreams, and all these guys were horny, so they were probably having dreams, but basically. They called me over there because he was being made fun of.
Did you exercise?
Oh yeah, that's right. That was the thing. I went over to talk to Jerry. What's his name? Was in the Bible, the religion department. The fellow Jerry Carney. Yeah. I asked what do you do with an exorcism? I'm going to go through the motions of this, and I can't remember what it was, but I stood on a table there, and I made signs of the cross, and I was probably being very facetious and unreligious, but basically I was trying to make a statement that this boy he has a statement and he has a right to believe this. And but yeah, I got called to do an exorcism to get the spirits out of that room. Probably had some spirits in a bottle in that room, but.
Speaking of ghosts, one thing I'd encourage you to do is to walk around the campus and look around the campus. And the campus has 3 cemeteries, if you count the college church as being 2. And one of my favorite stories is John Brinkley, whom, sorry, none of you, well, only the adults here knew, but none of the students knew. He ran into a freshman one time, and the freshman said to him, this place is dead. This place is absolutely dead. Nothing ever happens here. And John turned to him and said, what did you expect when you came to a college with 3 cemeteries? But look around the cemeteries. All kinds of interesting people are buried there. And you have these, I don't have a smartphone, but you all do. But look up those people. You'll put them in there and see what they did, see what their lives were like, what contribution they made. And that's interesting too. And the same with the portraits. Larry will be happy to know that we wait until they're dead before we hang our presidents, but but we do hang them here, and there are other places on campus where there are portraits. Do you know, for example, why the portrait of the man hanging in the Maples is better known at the University of Alabama than he is at Hampden-Sydney? Okay, tell us. Tell us, why is he? Denny is his name, but why is he better known down there? Yeah, and the tower. The tower was named first, and then it was the Denny Stadium, which now I think is the Denny Bear Bryant Stadium. But Denny was early president of the University of Alabama, certainly one of their most successful. Have any of you ever seen a pokeberry, the actual growing plant? Very good. It used to go around here all over the place, and then various beautification projects over the years decided to sort of clean things up. But I don't know whether the shirts were actually dyed with pokeberries or not. I know that it makes a difference, the color you get, depending on what time of year you actually take the berry, because of course it becomes darker as it goes along in the lifespan of the plant. But they are still around, and I don't encourage you to try this, but some of you who are cooks, you want to, you can actually eat the upper leaves of the pokeberry. You fry them up, or you sort of saute them in butter like you would spinach. Now, I do caution you that the root of the pokeberry is poisonous, so you need to stop at some point down the way. So some of you, what else do you want to ask about or talk about? Yeah. Excuse me? In the Wilson, oh, excuse me, I'm sorry. You dealing? Yeah, that was not. I think Ray, you may want to chime in on this. Where's Ray? That was not a building. I mean, that was not a habitable building of any kind. That's the remains of the old pumping station, where they pump the water up to the water towers. When I came here, next to Cushing and next to Venable were these huge water towers. And so the water was pumped up from streams into those water towers, and then gravity took them into the down and into the buildings. Those were, I'm not sure, they were removed at some point when plumbing was modernized. But one of the nice things about Hampden-Sydney was that, and I don't think we use the water towers as our only source of water now, but when the electricity went off, we still had water because the water was on a gravity-fed system. You know, the water towers over there by facilities management. But that was the pumping station that filled the water tanks.
I may have the distinction of being the only student that was ever a pumping test. Maybe there were others. But this was 1973, 1974, when I was chair of the honor council. And there was a student at fraternity brother at State High that took a shotgun and blew out some street lights in front of the State High fraternity and fraternity circle. And so I helped with the force of the honor violation against them. And in a situation like that, I felt that we're not supposed to keep a gun in the fraternity house. You're not supposed to have a loaded gun. You're not supposed to destroy government property, free life, maybe power. And you're not supposed to shoot babies or county. So I was coming out to keep the free guns. I think it was no, if I wanted to associate with him for a while, but that's very minor. At least I didn't kill anyone.
Well, most of the fraternity houses, the actual buildings are relatively new. I shouldn't say most of them, many of them are relatively new. And because when the college purchased all of the fraternity houses from the house corporation. It was an interesting system. A house corporation composed of alumni actually owned and managed the house, but the college owned the land on which they sat. So the house corporations did the best job they could, but things began to deteriorate. And so at one point, the college decided to take over all the fraternity houses and extensively remodel them. And that's when all the bunkers were built, the party bunkers. But in order to get rid of some of the houses that were here they were beyond restoration, so they wanted to eliminate them so they could build new houses. The easiest way to do it was to burn them down. And the old Sigma Chi house was burned down, and I think one of the others was burned down. But anyway, the one that was burned down was the old SAE house. And all was going well until they discovered that the students had been storing ammunition for hunting in the basement. And it was an explosive situation, needless to say. But the fraternities have gone through, over the years, have gone through some interesting times. There's no doubt about it. Any of you Chi Phis? Which, of course, is the oldest one on campus. Who built the Chi Phi house? Well, yeah, it's part of the seminary buildings. Yeah. If you start walking from the Maples was built to be home for the president of the seminary, very late in the 19th century. And then, of course, Middle Court, which was called Boston House, and then Venable, and then Penshurst, which was called North Carolina House. And then you jump across the street, and the Chi Phi house was student housing for the seminary, and then next to it was a building which was torn down, which was converted into the committee club.
Of course, you could dance. You danced in the committee.
Dance, right, yeah, and that was
defined as off campus, wasn't it?
Major Venable hung on to several properties. Hung on to the Maples. His maiden aunts lived there for years, and he hung on to this place on the corner. And the college forbid dancing in college buildings, and actually at one point totally on the campus at all. But anyway, in college buildings. And then they relented on that, and then there were dances in the center room of Cushing, and then in the McElwain, which is a story unto itself. It had movable benches in the main room, so they had dances there. They were but then the board changed its mind and decided to eliminate all dancing on campus, to make that illegal, and so it was just before a big dance. So that's when they got the idea. They went to Major Venable, and they asked him if they could use that building, and they converted it. It had a big addition on the back. Converted into a dance hall. And that was where the dances were held until it burned down just before a big weekend in the 1940s. And then the students went to the president and asked him if there's some place that they could dance on campus in the college building, and I believe that they did agree to that. I think it was probably at that time it would have been the back part of Graham. The back part of Graham was built as a gymnasium, so it was a big open space, and that's when dancing came back to campus. And did anybody know the history of the CAC and the German club? A German was a dance. It was a raucous kind of dance. And it wasn't just here, it was everywhere. And when you came to Hampden-Sydney in my day, somebody would come by and ask you if you wanted to join the German club. And of course, the standard answer was, I'm taking French, or I'm taking Latin, or I'm whatever. I'm not taking German. And then, of course, they had to explain to you that German was a dance. And most of those dances that the German club put on were actually funded by student subscriptions to the club. But it ultimately became the CAC, the College Activities Committee. But for years and years and years, the German club was actually the party organization for the campus.
My first pastorate was in Rocky Mount, North Carolina, and they had a German club that you joined, and they had the Germans, as they called it, in a tobacco warehouse. That it was your clothes smelled like tobacco when you came back out of there.
Anything else? Well, as I say, when I came here actually in the 4 years I was here, between 65 and 69, the curriculum changed enormously. When I came here as a freshman, the core requirement, which was, I think, 80 some hours. I mean, and there were specific requirements. Of course, there were two degrees. If you were, you could be a BA or you could be a BS, and there were certain commonalities, but at some point you diverged. And for example, BAs took 2 years of a modern language, 2 years of an ancient language, 2 years of English, and then a third year of either English or a modern language. BSs took 3 years of a modern language, then 2 years of English, and then one more of English.
So you got a Bachelor of Science in English.
Yeah, bachelor's. Well, you really, you could, I guess, but remember, majors weren't anything. Majors were, just a very, very few number of hours, because most of the hours were in the core. The poor science kids, as soon as they came in and said they wanted to go into the sciences or take a BS degree, they slapped them all in German. And and that goes back to the 19th century, when before the First World War, almost all scientific advances were in Germany, and the science books were in German. Now, of course, by the time you rolled around to 1965, they translated a few of them. So, but nonetheless, Hampden-Sydney was still requiring German most of their students, science students. But anyway, then you went along and BA. I'll talk about BAs because that's what I was. You had a year of philosophy that was required. You had a year of history, of course, that was required was Western European history. Golly, I'm trying to think now. But basically, it was a very, very strong humanities-oriented curriculum. I think that the thing that it did for me, or us, as I look back on it, is it gave you a lot of context for what you were learning. And you weren't, I don't want to get into any kind of current curricular fights, but I do think that you had this sort of broad exposure. These courses weren't necessarily great. I mean, we had good teachers, we had bad teachers, some of them were interesting, some of them was dull as dishwater, but nonetheless, they did give you a general kind of background. And then, of course, the curriculum changed rather drastically right at the end of my time. I continued with that curriculum until I graduated. But I think my junior year, they changed the curriculum for the students who were coming in, and they did away with the core. Bible went, classical languages went, philosophy went. All those courses were no longer required as courses, and they introduced this program called Western Man. And it was a, golly, if I can tell you right, it was, I think, a 10-hour course in the freshman year, and then it dropped back to an 8-hour course in the sophomore year. And they read all original sources. When I was in school, you tended to read more textbooks, the excerpts from writings as opposed to the original sources. And when the freshmen came in that year, they had these shopping bags all lined up in John's auditorium, and every shopping bag was filled with that many paperback books. And every freshman came through, and they picked up his bag of books, and that's what he had to accomplish in that first year. I would say one thing that you have to remember about those days is that you did what you were told to do. I mean, I know this is music to the ears of many, but if the faculty decided that you should take Latin, you took Latin. If the faculty decided you shouldn't take Latin, you didn't take Latin. There wasn't much discussion or consideration on the part of students. And now, as you moved on into the 70s and whatnot, there was more discussion of it. But certainly in the late 60s when I was here, you did what you were told. So I don't think we had a sense of things changing, and we certainly had a strong belief that the faculty knew best. Now, I know that is music to the ears of some of the faculty here, but we accepted that as the way it was done.
When I was growing up in North Carolina, we had a in the public schools, we had a course called civics. Did any of you all have civics when you? That was a constitution of the whole course was, and it was a great course. It was required of everybody in North Carolina high schools.
I don't think we were even required to take a course in political science. I was a history and political science major. In those days they called it government. Then they switched it. I guess they called it political science, and then they switched it to government, and then they switched it back to political science. But so I had several courses in that department, but I don't remember a course in political science being a part of the required curriculum. Anything else? We're getting to the end of our time here. You had a, Sarah.
I did. I just had a quick question about the Memorial Gate. Our class went down to look at it.
Yeah.
And we noticed that, for instance, for the people who fought and died in the Civil War, some of them have plaques here after their name, and some of them just have a dash after their name. And we were wondering about the history of those plaques and why some people get plaques.
Yeah. Okay.
They
Yeah.
died earlier and then they got their plaques.
All right, this was, the Memorial Gate was only had the World War I names, 14 of them there when I was here. And with some of the alumni colleges that we had in the summertime then, we were branching out about folks in other wars. And so I did the research on I, for instance, saw in an old book that there were 83, this was probably a book that was probably published about 1900, said that we had 83 students in the Civil War. And so I did all the research for those 83 names, and then, of course, I found more than 83, so I had to buy a second plaque there. But that was very interesting. I kept trying to find somebody, any record. I did the search down in Richmond on this. Surely we would have had some students or alums who were in the Mexican War, but in the 1850s, but I never could find any evidence of it.
I think the plaque for World War II was done. I don't know when it was done, because I remember my parents were down here one time, and my father looked at it. It was over in the museum for a while. And,
well, it was down on the football field by the flagpole for a while too.
Because he looked at it and he read the names, and he found somebody he'd been to Augusta Military Academy with, so it's been around. That's been around a while. Anything else? Yes, Phil. V12?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. There's no question.
Oh yeah, it kept us alive as a college.
I mean, the place was, this is the last because we got to go, but the place was definitely going to close. I mean, the student enrollment had fallen, the civilian enrollment had fallen to, I think, in the 20s. And so there was no other choice but to give it up. And then through some contacts, through alumni and in the Naval Department, the V12 program, one of the V12 programs came to Hampden-Sydney. Of course, these were all across the country, and the Navy paid the college for room and board and for instruction, and I think the soldiers, ours was Navy, there were others, were here for about 6 months or so, sort of giving a cram course before they went into active service. I guess but some things.
It was an officer training school.
Yeah. But this was the dining hall for the V12 unit, and the Kappa Sig house was the commandant's home for the V12 unit. We've got to go. Thanks so much, and read. You can read this if you want to, but read Alan Taylor's book.